Hi everyone, this is Dr. Jyothi Rao from Shakti Health and Wellness Center, welcoming you to the new webinar series. This webinar series is devoted to identifying ways to keep your body's health and balance, as well as tools that I think are the most profound to maintain health and continue aging well. I'm very excited to talk about circadian rhythm today, which is one of the most powerful tools I have discovered for health. Here at Shakti, we're always looking for ways to identify root causes and help bring the body to balance. This concept of the circadian rhythm is one that I believe to be so foundational to healing and aging. And it's the reason why it'll be the first concept that we discuss in our webinar series. And one of the main reasons for its profound effect is that it is one of the most influential interventions we can make on the mitochondria. You can remember maybe from biology class that the mitochondria was the powerhouse of the cell, but it really does more than that. It does control our repair, our immune response, our glucose control, energy production, our ability to heal ourselves, so much more than that. And it is a key player in our aging. This particular issue won a Nobel Prize in 2017 for the discovery of molecular clock genes. And it identified the period gene, which showed that there's this protein that accumulates and degrades in a 24-hour cycle. And these genes and this protein helps identify to our body how day and night exist, and it links it to all our organs. It kind of connected our bodies to our environment, our light, our sleep patterns. It even connected it to our metabolism and our hormone rhythms. So it was very exciting to learn about this connection that we have with the earth. What is a circadian rhythm? It's a 24-hour biological clock regulating sleep and digestion. There is a master control center called the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain, and there's peripheral clocks which kind of control and give feedback to our body and have optimal times of working based on what kind of input that the sun is giving to our eyes. So the peripheral clocks are located in the liver, the gut, the pancreas, and many of our organs. And when we see the sunlight in our eyes, in the back of our retina, there's cells that communicate directly with the suprachiasmatic nucleus that tell our bodies what to do, when to turn on, when to rest, and when we can work efficiently. There's also these Zeitgebers, which are time givers. They're influential things that influence our clock. Then they're basically based on light, which is the primary source of a time giver, the food that we take in, our physical activity, and our temperature. So basically, the link between the sun cycle and our bodies is what the circadian rhythm is all about. And every organ is linked to this cycle. And every aspect of the sun has a different health benefit. If someone were to ask me maybe 6 months ago, before I learned about all of this, how much time should I spend outside? I would have probably said 30 minutes a day. But the truth is that every aspect of the sun has a different health benefit. So the answer is now go out as much as you can, stay out as long as you can. Now, if that feels overwhelming to you, maybe still do the 30 minutes a day, but try to do different times of the day. And we'll get into why different aspects of the day are so important. And remember, it's not just that light is important, dark is just as important. So sleep and having a dark room and having signals to our brain that doesn't have the intensity of light coming in tells our bodies that it's time to rest and restore and heal. So light and dark are really very essential for health. We should probably review some basic principles. That is that we are photoelectric bodies. We need light and energy in order to work efficiently. Our electrons are traveling through our body and actually change in our mitochondria to develop energy production. And 70% of our energy from our bodies comes from the sun, as opposed to our food. Now, this was a very astonishing fact for me to learn about, but the light gives us more energy basically than our food. And visible light is between 380 to 700 nanometers. And that's and UVA and UVB light is less than 380 nanometers, and infrared or invisible light is above 770 nanometers. And why is that important? Because you'll see light boxes that give you different nanometers. You'll see saunas that give you different nanometers. And depending on what your goals are, you may want to decide what kind of light you want to be under. Infrared light is very healing. It penetrates deep into the tissue and has a lot of restorative benefits. The other aspect to remember is that even if we did everything perfectly well, as we age, the circadian rhythms in our bodies decline, and the disruptions to our clock genes happen just because we age. So we have to try a lot harder and do a lot more interactive lifestyle changes in order to stay and keep our mitochondria happy. So when you think about this, you're like, if I've ever experienced this, some exaggerated examples of circadian rhythm shifts are things like jet lag. That's when you travel different time zones, even if it's just 1 hour. Sometimes it takes us a while for us to adjust to our sleep-wake cycle. We walk around a little groggy, we can be a little nauseated, specifically when you travel significant hours, like four or more hours. Sometimes you'll start to see significant changes in your ability to perform, whether it's cognitive function or athletic function. So you may experience this with just day-to-day travel if you're, especially if you go on planes a lot. The other place you see this a lot is shift work. And many people tell me that shift work was not as detrimental, but it became more of a problem as they got older. Once you start to shift the night day by working nights, your body does start to pay for it. And I think that number is about the age of 40. And that's when our growth hormone starts changing and these impacts to our circadian rhythm become more profound. So say you did even like an all-nighter in college and you were like, whatever, I could spend, 2 or 3 days doing that and I was fine. I didn't get sick often. I slept fine the next day. Well, as you age every decade, that's going to become harder and harder to change from. So sometimes shift work can also look like just having a baby. So when you have a baby that's up all night and you're losing sleep, it's a lot harder to bounce back from that when you get older into your 30s and 40s and then even 50s than when you were in your 20s. So that is an example also of like the bouncing back that starts to affect our immune system. We start to get sick more often. We stay sick. We just don't, our mood starts to shift. So there's a lot of detriment when we are pushing against the circadian rhythm. Also, something small like daylight savings time, which is just a 1 hour shift, especially for someone like me, I am very, very affected by the daylight savings time, specifically in April when we push the clock forward. Um, it is a very hard for me to kind of, it used to be anyway, before I started employing some of these tactics that we're going to talk about, to try to get into a place where my schedule was just easy and I bounced right back. It usually takes me about a week to recover from daylight savings time. So why is that? Well, the sunlight directly affects our mitochondria. And as I said before, mitochondria is not just the powerhouse of our cells. It's a very key component to many aspects of day-to-day function. It impacts our immune system. It's part of the cell danger response, which tells our body that there's a threat to us. It can shut down and make other organs efficient and inefficient because it is loaded in almost every organ in our body. It regulates the hormones that we make. Specifically, pregnenolone is generated by the mitochondria, and that turns into a lot of our sex hormones: estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. It regulates our digestion, it regulates our body temperature, and it's even in charge of what's called house cleaning, called autophagy, which is where we clean house. We get rid of the inefficient dead cells or things that are reactions to the byproducts of the reactions that we have in our bodies every day. Bottom line is the mitochondria, a healthy mitochondria helps us age better. We get less chronic illness, we bounce back, we're more resilient when we have healthier mitochondria. When we have a mismatch between our sleep-wake cycle, when you continuously fight against the circadian rhythm, you get impaired ATP production or energy production. And that is not just energy, that's again all the things that the mitochondria do. Optimized mitochondria involves a good morning light exposure, overnight fasting, meaning we're not taxing our gut while we're sleeping. And actually, even after sunset, we should not be eating because our bodies, when it's dark outside, needs to get into that calm healing phase and resting phase, and also restorative sleep. So optimal mitochondrial function is very critical to healthy aging. And the truth is that we have no reproducible, affordable way to monitor the mitochondria. And what I learned as an astonishing fact is that we can survive pretty well with minimal discomfort and minimal symptoms and maybe even minimal diagnoses of disease states until our mitochondria is about 70 to 80% dysfunctional. And after that, we can show up with significant impairments in our body, significant illnesses. And it is a scary concept for me to not be able to monitor this. It's kind of like you have no idea what your blood pressure is, and one day you wake up and you're 200 over 100. And so that concept is, frightening in the sense of, well, how are we supposed to figure out where we're at? My solution to that would be just to kind of employ the things that are helpful for the mitochondria on a daily basis, make it become your habit so that you're constantly helping your mitochondria stay well. And remember, it's not just about the sunlight. Signaling darkness is really, really important. So when we sleep, we also want a dark room. We want dim lights after sunset. And if anyone has seen me in the office, I'm wearing blue light blocker glasses, which are amber during the day. And in the evening after sunset, I put red glasses on to block the light so that the intensity of the light coming at me is not increasing the stimulus to my brain to say, hey, we're awake. So if you can imagine back when we used to not have, lights in the home and we lived outdoors, our day and night regimens were set by the sunlight and sunset. So we were much more active during the day. We were resting during the night. And those signals, when we're inside in a room, are about the same. So the intensity of light is called lux. And if we don't change that lux or that signal of intensity to our eyes, to the retina, which then communicates with the suprachiasmatic nucleus that says, hey, we have a lux of 2000 coming in, it must be time to wake up, as opposed to staying in our indoor light, which is constantly between 100 and 500, depending on what kind of lighting you have in your house. If that constant 100 to 500 is there from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, the body has no regulation of when it's light and when it's dark. And therefore, the organs don't have a stimuli to work at their efficient times. So with the mapping, when they did the gene tests, when they figured out the gene, they also, through the Salk Institute, figured out when optimal uh, organs are working. So for example, the optimal time for, say, the pancreas to digest our foods is before sunset. And it's usually in the morning. So the morning hours are the best time to eat the most carbohydrates because of the fact that our pancreas, which creates insulin, is going to help us break that down. And as we tax it with more and more carbs during the day and including into the night, we start to become much and more inefficient in managing our glucose control. So this is an example of how all our organs have an optimal time of functioning. Even exercise, for example, is between 2 and 4. That's when we are shown to have the best kind of recovery from workouts, but also our response rates and our movement is optimal around that time. Now, not everyone can exercise between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. So this is not something that's practical, but it's just kind of an interesting idea that if you were able to create your day and you wanted to optimize all your organ functions, that would be one way to kind of see when you could exercise. The other aspect of it is that hormones are directly impacted by sunlight. And so our major regulatory hormone cortisol, which is from our adrenals, it starts in the morning. It's supposed to be our awake hormone. So it's supposed to go up as we wake up. And when we see the sunlight first thing in the morning, we elevate that cortisol. Now, if you're someone who's walking around with a lot of cortisol, it actually can be an adaptogen. It can actually blunt that cortisol response in the morning if you're too high because you're so wired or you're so stressed or something is really inflamed in your body, you're in a lot of pain. The sunlight can actually tone down that response. And It peaks at dawn. It creates energy and alertness for us. It also sends signals for our melatonin to shut down so that we are able to create another avenue to increase melatonin in the evening so that we can sleep restoratively. It is a repair hormone. It's an antioxidant hormone. So it helps our organs heal, and it gets rid of the oxidative stress, which is the stress on our body from day to day, pollution, not eating well, sitting too much. We create this oxidative stress with our lifestyle choices and sometimes just by living. And so antioxidants are necessary to combat that. And melatonin is one of our most profound antioxidants and most important. Insulin sensitivity is also highest in the morning and lowest at night. And when you eat late, you create that insulin resistance. Another hormone that we don't talk enough about is called leptin, and it's the master regulator of metabolism, and it is really affected by early morning light, UVA light. So this is one of the main reasons for anyone who's going through our weight loss program or wants to create better metabolism. We talk about sunlight and how important it is to get out at UVA, especially early UVA, to help that leptin and leptin resistance, which can be a huge problem for weight gain. And pregnenolone is our precursor hormone to all the sex hormones, which is also created in the morning light. Vitamin D, I consider a hormone because it does so many things to so many tissues. So it also gets disrupted when we are not having enough UVB light. And actually, it can get impaired by the latitude that we live in. So it's not just a function of what time we're outside, because certain points in the season, fall and winter, we're not going to be able to get UVB light in enough intensity so that we can get vitamin D from it. In Maryland, we actually do have the intensity has to be between 5 and 6. But we sometimes, as the season goes on, we lose that number so that we're not getting enough vitamin D through the sun, which is why we need to take supplements. Also, when we think about our gut, the microbiome actually has circadian rhythm changes as well. So, late night eating disrupts that microbial rhythm, and it can lead to insult on the cells called the endothelial cells of the gut, and it can lead to endotoxemia and what's called leaky gut or intestinal permeability, which is basically a gateway to any sort of inflammation in the whole body. You also want to align your meals with daylight so you can improve the glycemic control and the microbial diversity. So what does it look like when we're not in sync? What does a misalignment look like? Well, it can look like anything that walks in my door, actually. It can look like fatigue, weight gain. It can look like glucose dysregulation, gut issues, mood issues, brain fog, memory changes, cardiovascular changes. And it doesn't have to be profound. It can be a subtle background noise, but it can all be affected by the fact that we are not in alignment with the circadian rhythm. So misalignment leads to cellular stress, leads to mitochondrial dysfunction, and leads to inflammation. And for all the people that have seen my previous lectures, I have several lectures and a couple of books out on how bad inflammation is in terms of developing chronic illness. So circadian rhythm as a tool can be our one fight against inflammation. On top of that, the DNA and the mitochondrial repair is also helped a great deal by exposure to light, specifically UV light, so UVA light, sorry, so that you can actually repair injuries and things that are harmful for the mitochondria, things that insults that we've endured can actually cause healing when we have exposure to UVA light. So what are some of the clinical ways that this presents? So we talked a little bit about symptoms, but when you ignore those symptoms for a while, and just like anything else, if you ignore that light on your car that says engine lights on, engines lights on, if you ignore it for long enough, that car's not going to work. And so if you ignore these symptoms, you're going to have symptoms that turn into diagnoses. That diagnosis could be insomnia, it could be obesity, it could be mild cognitive diabetes, and oxidative stress, and maybe some genetics involved, but a lot of it is mutable by our lifestyle choices. So again, think about this as a lifestyle choice, a tool in your toolbox to be able to combat some of these things. So sunlight is not just energy, it's information to our body. And it is broken down into multiple times during the day based on where the sun is with respect to the earth. Sunrise changes every day depending on your latitude, where you're standing with respect to the equator. So there's a wonderful app that I tell everyone about called My Circadian, which is a free app, which also includes a lux meter if you upgrade. The lux meter tells you the intensity of the light that's coming at you, the UV index that could tell you if you're able to get vitamin D at that point. And she has a series of multiple videos, which are short, 4 to 5 minutes, that tell you the importance of why daybreak, why sunrise, what does UVA do, what does UVB do, what does sunset do. And she has excellent videos on the aspects of how this is important. How do you incorporate this into your day? So as a summary, sunrise is about, uh, again, changes. Right now, when I'm doing this in October, today was 7:35 in the morning. It'll change when we push the clock back. It changes if you are in a different latitude. Sunset also changes every day. And in sunrise, there's an abundant amount of uh, cortisol communication. So your body is told to wake up. There's a lot of blue light and red light and a really beautiful balance that tells your body in a warm way that it's time to wake up. Red light tends to be very inflammatory, anti-inflammatory, and blue light tends to be kind of a wake up your brain type of thing. So it's not bad to have blue light. You just need it in balance with the other lights. So when we have things that are coming at us from the screen, blue light, it is unopposed. Whereas the sun has green, violet, blue light, red light, infrared light. It has a combination of a whole spectrum, which is balanced. And just like we can never really hack nature, we're not able to mimic this in a light bulb. That's why sunrise, early sunrise, is so valuable to waking up our brain, waking up the cortisol, also creating this hormone called pregnenolone, which is very helpful for us. 30 minutes before sunrise is daybreak, and daybreak is a wonderful time to go outside and ground, connect our body to the earth. The lack of noise and the irritation from our surroundings is a great time to have us ground into the earth and connect to the earth. We are photoelectric beings. We carry energy that, and a grounding to the earth kind of makes our body seem more functional, more grounded, more rooted, more at peace. So it is a very healing time to go outside, listen to the birds when the sun hasn't risen. And daybreak is a wonderful time to do that. UVA increases pregnenolone, as well as dopamine, thyroid, leptin regulator. It helps with serotonin production, which helps with our mood, helps with our hormones, help with energy. It helps us get motivated. Dopamine is our motivator. So if you are not motivated by this talk to do the things that I say, just try to get yourself out in early UVA light and see if that dopamine surge that happens over time will get you to do more. UVB is also where we get our vitamin D. It's immune regulation. It supports nitric oxide. So when I say immune regulation, it helps increase your regulatory cells, which are responsible for kind of figuring out who the good guy and the bad guy is. So autoimmune disease flares versus I don't have enough to fight an infection. All of that regulation can happen in UVB light. It also is where our nitric oxide gets supported, which is the gas that dilates our blood vessels, that helps our endothelium, that helps increase blood flow, increasing oxygen delivery. UVB is also where we get beta and endorphin release. These are natural chemicals in our brain that give us this natural high, this natural feel-good feeling, which is one of the reasons why so many people love the sun. Red and infrared light in sunrise and sunset also help greatly with mitochondrial repair. So, what are the other practical implications of all of this information? Well, one of them is the My Circadian app. Another aspect would be to try to get out first thing in the morning. When you get up, having that sunlight be your first light. So, what does that mean? Well, now that the sunrise is about 7:35 in the morning, again in October, It'll change when we fall back, but today the sunrise was at 7:35. I wore my blue light blockers, which were red glasses, until the sun rose and until I was able to get outside, because I woke up much earlier than that. And I didn't want to use the lights that were blue light, that were artificial. And I wanted the sunrise to be the one that wakes up my body. So early morning light. And if you can't do all of that, then just try to get out 5 to 10 minutes first thing in the morning, if you can, within 30 minutes of waking up, ideally within 5 to 10 minutes of waking up. And if you can see the change of light, whether it's sunrise or sunset, that is an excellent signal for our body to kind of re-regulate where our resources should be allocated to. So blue blockers after sunset, you can wear inside your home, or you can buy red bulbs that are very calming for the eyes. For about 4 hours before we go to bed, if we can do that, we will start to optimize our melatonin secretion if we're not surrounded by very bright lights. Our melatonin does not do well. Remember, it's our sleep hormone, and it needs to be told. We need to tell the brain that we are ready to go to sleep. So if we're constantly under LED lights, or even lights that have over 100 lux, our melatonin is not going to be optimized. So if you can dim your lights, not use LED in the bedroom, wear your blue blockers, it's going to be a really nice reset for your melatonin, your pineal gland, which makes the melatonin. Also, ideally, eating before sunset is the goal. Now, that's going to get a lot harder as the days get shorter. So I understand this isn't very practical for a lot of us, but ideally, we want to eat before sunset. This is a very easy thing to do in the summer when sun sets around 8:30 at night. Also, if you're able to fast overnight and not use your GI tract in terms of needing to digest or swallow and rest that microbiome, that's also very beneficial. You want to move during the day. Early morning light is great for movement. Walking during early UVA is an excellent way to get your steps in. And you want to keep the room colder at night too, because remember, we talked about these time triggers, these time clocks, and these aspects of our environment that trigger rest, and coldness actually triggers calming and slowing down. So a colder room temperature at night, along with being dark, can help a lot. So remember that light is also as important as dark. So optimize your sleep, aim for 7 to 9 hours, and try to have a consistent sleep wake time. Have a cool, dark, tech-free bedroom if possible, and use mind-body techniques to downregulate breathing, meditation, even gentle yoga, calming music. You can use Spotify for binaural beats, things that are just going to tell your brain, along with the environment clues, to calm down and relax. So in conclusion, I know there's a lot of information in this webinar, and I'm happy to answer questions afterwards. Please send in your questions to info@Rao Wellness or in the chat, so that we can answer it either in real time, or I'll send you a response if you view this later. Remember, these are take-home messages. Every organ has a clock, and we should respect it. Light and timing are tools for healing and for health optimization. We can use sunlight and restorative sleep as our tools for an anti-inflammatory approach to our lives. And I think that circadian medicine enhances all the functional interventions that you do. So if you're working on weight loss, and you're working on exercise and fitness, and you're working on your sleep, and you're working on all these things that I tell you all to work on, this is our foundation. The circadian medicine is the foundation. It's like oxygen. It's like the water we drink. It is so foundationally important to everything that we do and to our mitochondria. So I hope that you get a lot from this lecture, and please send me questions. I want to be very accessible for this information so that everyone can take part in using it. It's free. It's available to everyone, regardless where you are. So I want to be able to have you utilize it. So my wish for you is this cartoon that says you've got a rare condition. It's called good health. And frankly, my traditional training, we were not really sure on how to treat it. So we want to be able to not just get you good health, I also want to get you optimal. So this particular intervention of circadian medicine will optimize your health. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And please give me feedback on future topics that you'd like to hear about, as well as any questions. And I will respond. Thanks again. Take care. Bye.
Okay, everyone, we're going to give it a few minutes to just start letting some questions come through. You'll see a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Just type your questions in there, and then Dr. Rao is going to jump on and start answering questions in the order that they've come in. Okay, we've had some questions come in. We'll start with the first one. All right, so the first question is, how can you get more UVA and UVB lights at home? And are there lights we can use at home?
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello? Okay. I'm trying to see if you guys can see me. Trying to click this on, but hi everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm very excited about this topic. Like I said, I really want to make sure everybody understands it to a point where they can start practically using it. Um, Sorry, what was the first question? Was it about UV light?
Yes, let me just pull it up real quick. Yeah, so first
How
question
can you get more
was,
UV? Okay.
yeah, how can you get more UVA and UVB lights at home? And are there lights we can use at home?
So the lights that we want in the home, I think, are more broad spectrum. You want things that have a band of multiple colors. Like I said, outside the sunlight has reds and greens and violet. It's got a full spectrum of color lights in a really nice balance. So the blue light has the red light to balance it. There are no great light bulbs that will hack that. There's definitely companies that are trying to make bulbs that mimic the sun, if you will. Nira is a company that does that, NIRA, and they have home bulbs that you can do that have full spectrum lighting. I don't think it's the same as going outside, but I think it's better than what we have right now. I would prefer incandescent bulbs to the LED bulbs right now because the LEDs are so focused on narrow spectrum lighting. And there are studies that show how much it impacts our sleep. So we do want it to be a little bit milder at night. So even if you start dimming the light at home, I don't think you want necessarily to just get UVA and UVB. You want to find bulbs that are full spectrum. And Nira is one of those companies that I think does a pretty decent job. At night, though, if you want to try to get the red bulbs where they're just red light and it just makes everything look red. My glasses that I wear at night, which I think they're upstairs right now, but they are everything looks, pretty red in that light. So I'll tell you the light that's in my room right now, I'm wearing my blue blockers, but these are amber, they're more for daytime. I'm gonna pull up my Circadian app. And if you guys have it up, you can do this at your home too. And it looks like It basically looks like this when you look at it. It tells you when there's sunrise and sunset. There's a lux meter right here on it. And that lux meter, I can look up and I can see how much lux is coming into my eyes right now. And it's basically it's between 100 and 200. Actually, my desk lamp that's shining on my face right now, that's giving me 300 lux. So what that means is that it does not know that it's nighttime. 300 to 500 is what happens at sunrise. And so my body is going to be confused with me sitting under this all the time. Not my eyes are going to be like, well, it's time to get up. It's morning. Like it's not time to go to bed. So imagine being in this 300 all day long. There's no circadian rhythm at all. That's in the indoor light. So you can use multiple lights. So Nira is great. There's other companies called EMR Tech and Bonshore. These are companies that make red lights. They make great bulbs and glasses. And they are the ones that you can use to try to block that light and then see how much lux is coming in if you're using these glasses. So for example, if I try to take the picture of this through my glass, let me see, it drops down to 123. My glasses blocked about 200 lux from it coming at my eyes. So that's the benefit of wearing these blue blockers during the day and the stronger ones, which are red, at nighttime, so that you can keep up that circadian rhythm. I hope that answered your question. Making puzzles at nights relaxes me. Jake, do you want to read the questions or should I
Uh,
just read them?
it's up to you, whatever's easier.
Okay. Okay, I'll just read the next question. Making puzzles at night relaxes me and gets me off tech. However, I need light to make the puzzles. Do you have recommendations for this? You can use dimmer lights. You can use red light if you can work around red bulbs. You don't have to buy a fancy red box. There's some small, let me just show you this. You know how that this looks, these bulbs that I forget what these are called, but these are the ones that people use little round balls to kind of get that intense light. Those come in red lights too. So you can focus that lighting on the puzzle or light up that area of the room that you're sitting in so that you don't have to have the whole house in red light. But there's definitely ways to function with dimmer lights. So you want to make sure that you're trying to look into that. And if you want, I can find the resources that I have are something called EMR Tech. That's EMR-TEK. That's one company. The other one is Bonshore, BON. I think it's SHUR. If you're having any problems, Denise, finding this, let me know and I can give you their websites. But there are companies that create these bulbs and lights that you can function with after sunset. Does infrared sauna help with circadian rhythm regulation? So the light itself doesn't help per se, but there is definite benefits to the infrared sauna in general because infrared light on your body. So remember that red light is visible. Infrared light sometimes you can't see. So in the sauna, you're not getting the infrared light, but if our body sees it, it's a very healing light. So when you get into your sauna, I think it's a great tool to do in the evenings, but I'm not sure that it will, if you walked out and you were in really bright light, like I'm sitting right now, I'm not sure how advantageous that would be to helping you sleep better. I think it's better than nothing, but I don't think it adds to the circadian rhythm as much. But there's so many health benefits with sauna. That light penetrates deep into muscle and tissue for healing. It helps metabolism. It helps detoxify your body. So I have nothing bad to say about infrared saunas at night, but I just don't know how much it'll help you with your regulation with sleep because it does still, your eyes need to see the lower intensity light. So if you walked out of that sauna, um, and you had your red glasses on where you're blocking blue light, that's great. So just remember that once you walk out of that sauna, you still have to make up for the light that you're seeing. Do peptides help regulate circadian rhythms? Uh, I mean, indirectly, no, I don't think that there's peptides that help you regulate rhythms per se, but there are peptides that help you sleep. And then there's peptides that give you energy. So if you need to have more energy in the morning, you can work on mitochondrial peptides to help that. And then you can work on sleep peptides if you're having sleep issues. Ultimately, I think the natural cycle of wakefulness and sleeping is going to ultimately dictate your circadian rhythm. What happens if you're allergic to the sun? How can you get sun benefits? That's a really good question. So there is some sun hypersensitivity that's out there, and some people get hives, some people start sneezing. I think that there's intensity matters for those people. So in many of my patients who are super sensitive to light, if they have chemical sensitivities, light sensitivities because of whatever medical problems they're having, or just us being so much indoors with our lux levels at 100 to 300, when we walk outside, our retina needs time to get adjusted to 500, 10,000, 30,000. On a summer day, you can have a lux of 100,000. And so those brighter, intense lights during UVA, so remember, the respect to the sunrise to the earth is where you get a lot of the changes. So imagine this is the earth and this is where the sun is. If the sun is like basically if the sun is basically at below the horizon, that's daybreak. Daybreak light will never hurt anybody. Moonlight will really never hurt anybody. You can't have the intensity. There's not that much intensity happening. Sunrise on a clear day without trees, maybe 500, but on most days it's between 100 and 500 lux. That's also very low intensity. And remember, in sunrise, there's a lot of red light, so it's very anti-inflammatory. So that blue light, which is maybe the one that causes more of the problems, and the UVA and UVB are small nanometers, so they're more intense. They affect the skin. They give you the coloring. Those are the ones that are a little bit more intense and maybe cause more harm. So what I suggest to people when sun is rising, right? So when it's like sunrise is about, say, 7:30, and then an hour later will be UVA. So early UVA is so healing. It's so beneficial for us. That's around 9 o'clock in the morning. Really tough to get sun allergies from that. I would say maybe try for a person who has those symptoms, I would try tiptoeing your way into it. Go out at daybreak, go out at sunrise, go out at early UVA, and then kind of get your body adjusted. Maybe avoid 10 to 2 because that's where the UVA, strong UVA is from 10 to 2, 10 to 5. And then UVB starts pretty much during the day too. So those are the more intense lights. So for those people who want to get the benefits of circadian rhythm, but they can't tolerate direct light or high lux times, you can go out in the mornings or you can go out in the early evenings around sunset, and that will be fine. I have some patients who just can only tolerate moonlight, and they'll start with moonlight and then they're kind of working their way to daybreak and sunrise. So I think we just all have to habituate to our whatever we tolerate. But I think the goal would be to try to get different types of sunlight if possible. You can go out with the hat on, you can go out, sit under a tree, you don't have to bake in the sun. It's not about what your skin sees all the time, it's about your eyes. So if you can go out without glasses and you can go out without contacts, that would be fantastic. That's why I ask people in the morning before you do anything, put your contacts in or anything, just go outside and see the light for 5 minutes, figure out, maybe have a cup of water, maybe make a cup of coffee, sit out there. I really had to make an effort to change um, my pattern of how I could increase my sun exposure. We are such creatures of being indoors that there are many ways we can actually get outside more, but it's a real conscientious effort to be able to get outside more. And so I understand that is difficult, but you can find small ways to maybe eat outside or have a cup of coffee outside or, take a break and walk outside for 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. It'll all add up. Hope I didn't miss any. Sorry. Okay. So I'm at what do you do to modulate leptin? So leptin modulation. So there's a wonderful program. A lot of leptin modulation is early UVA light, which means that basically that early morning light, which is UVA, starts around 9 o'clock and goes to about 5, but the early morning light, the 9 to 10, 9 to 11 type of light, that light is excellent for leptin regulation. So I think, am I saying that right? So it actually might be between 8 o'clock or 8:30. When you look at your app, you'll see when UVA starts. Like example for today, where was UVA today? The UVA started at 8:30. Sunrise was at 7:36. UVA was an hour later at 8:30. So between 8:30 and 9:30 is what we would call like early UVA, and that is a great leptin regulator. So if you want to do more with leptin, there is a Dr. Jack Krause, who's a neurosurgeon. He has what's called a leptin prescription, which involves circadian rhythm using sunlight, but also using seasonal eating with foods, protein restriction, not sorry, carb restrictions to about 25 to 50 grams per day, and then using seasonal protein and seasonal vegetables around you. But if you look up Jack Krause's leptin prescription, you'll see 6 steps that can help you reset leptin with more of a kind of natural approach without using lots of supplements. I have not found a supplement that helps with leptin per se. I think this circadian biology with the early UVA is probably one of the best things to try to help regulate leptin. It sounds like there's only one desirable circadian rhythm and that everyone should strive for, the early rising and exposure to the sun. But some people have delayed phase circadian rhythm, the night owl. So these people need to try to do things to get their system in sync with the desirable. I don't think so. It's a good question, Erica. I think that there are different chronotypes, and there's quizzes online that you can find out when your best chronotype is in terms of like when is the most ideal for you to work out and when is the most ideal for you to do all of these things. I think that we should try to sync your body. So a huge shift is probably not as favorable because remember, our organs are linked to the sun. So genetic, like, in terms of like when your pancreas is going to work optimally, is still probably linked to the circadian rhythm. So if you want to eat at different times, if you want to, try to get your food in when it's still light outside, even though you might be getting up, at a different time, that is a challenge, I would say. But what helps with the chronotypes is that you can find out when is the optimal time for you to say exercise. If you're a delayed person for waking up, exercising at 6 a.m. for you is terrible. And maybe if you find out you're a later chronotype, if you have a flexible job time, you can maybe start work at 10 and work through, 6 or 7 versus getting up and getting to work at 7 and working to 3 or 4. Remember, there's a practical side to it, and this is like what our body thrives for. So I have met some people who sleep in very altered sleep cycles, and they don't have any perceived, blood pressure changes, glucose changes. They're not tired. They're not overweight. They don't have any lipid issues. There's no metabolic consequence at that time. So I would say that if you are finding that there are some metabolic consequences, I would try to shift it maybe more towards what a normal cycle would be. I don't think it's an all or nothing. I think we need, as a basis, foundational restorative sleep, 7 to 9 hours, and waking up and feeling rested as a concept, regardless of what time it is, like if you're a shift worker or not. But ideally, this would be it. And I think we pay for altering against it every decade that we can't do it anymore, so I think you're partially right that there is some flexibility with the chronotype, but it when it becomes really extreme, I worry that some of the health consequences we're seeing in people are as a result of the sleep disruption. I hope that answers your question. So it's a little bit of a yes and a no of what you said. Vicky said, I'm a night owl, so that sounds beyond difficult, more like impossible. Any starter suggestions? I'm not sure what time night. So if you're a night owl, if you're sleeping like 12 to 1, all you have to do is when you wake up, whenever you wake up, just go outside. If it's 10 o'clock in the morning, go outside. Just see the sunlight. What I think happens when we start to see the sunlight during the day and we get the signals a little bit more is that your clock naturally shifts. So when I started this in March or April, I was not an early morning riser. I mean, I woke up in the morning, 6:37, but I was not a 5 a.m. type of person. But what happened as I was seeing more and more of the sunset, so I started with seeing sunset because I can't remember when I started, but I don't think I was up in time for sunrise or daybreak every day. And as I was seeing the sunset, so if you can't see sunrise, why start with the sunset? Try to get outside around the change of light. So when your body starts to see changes of light, that's great. And then when you come in, if you can start wearing blue blockers and kind of continue that signal of saying I'm calm and I'm starting to need to start to rest, you'll see maybe your own clock shifting a little bit. So you could stay up to say maybe 12 o'clock, and now you're saying, oh, I'm getting sleepy around 11. And so naturally you'll wake up a little bit earlier the next morning. So there are subtle shifts. That's what happened to me. I started shifting because I kept seeing the sunset every day, and I started wearing my red light blockers, and I started just waking up for sunrise, and it never happened before, but my clock just started to shift because I started looking at light shifts in the night. So if you can't do it in the morning, just do it in the evening. If you can get out and start to see the change in sun around sunset, fantastic. And then when you do get up in the morning, try to get outside and see the sun whenever that is. And that'll start to kind of, change your clock a little bit. I know people are using red light therapy. Are there lights like that for UVA and UVB? I mean, I think the tanning salons are basically UVA lights. That's what causes melanin to happen and get our skin darker. Um, I'm not sure if I'm not sure if any available UVB lights per se. I know that, dermatology offices will have therapeutic lights that are UVA or maybe UVB lights for different skin conditions, like say psoriasis or um, vitiligo or some, skin conditions. There are structured, but I don't know if they're available for home use or any companies that are reputable anyway. For people with very poor eyesight that wear corrective eyeglasses, what is the minimum amount of time they should remove their glasses during the outdoor sun session? I think everything's about like 30 minutes, maybe. Um, you don't need to, when you go out in the early morning light, so you don't have to, read a newspaper or, I mean, as long as you're safe, for example, maybe start with 10 minutes of wearing no eye, corrective lenses. But the goal is to kind of just enjoy the sun and be out there. So hopefully, you don't have to walk anywhere, you don't have to worry about falling and things like that. You can even sit and have your feet touch the grass and just, or maybe not touch the grass, it doesn't matter. But ideally, I think the idea is about 30 minutes, I think. It's a really hard answer. And I think Sarah Kleiner, who wrote the app, who developed the app, she speaks to it a lot because she's actually a coach that works in circadian biology and quantum biology and things like that. And she's been asked this question many times, and she basically says there's no perfect time limit. It's, as much as you can, whenever you can. And so as long as you're safe, maybe, even at lunchtime, just going outside for a little bit, and not wearing your corrective lenses, or towards the end of the day, not wearing your corrective lenses. It's a hard answer. I think you will start to see changes. I mean, what we want to see is improved sleep quality, maybe feeling a little bit more refreshed when you get up. You can check your heart rate variability. You can watch your glucose monitors. So there are objective data that kind of will tell you, hey, my body is responding to the light. But I feel like anything is better than nothing. If you only have 5 minutes, go for 5 minutes. And it's additive. So if you can't do this at all on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday because you're so busy, but on Thursday or Friday you have more time, it's cumulative. So you don't have to do everything every day. There is a storage that your body will do so that you can try to bank in a little bit more on the weekends, but not as much on the weekdays. So what you don't want to do is make this stressful. But if you can, remove your glasses and not wear glasses. Obviously, if you don't want to stare at the sun midday without glasses, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like going outside in the early morning light and the evening light without glasses. And if you have a hat on, the eyes are protected a little bit more. If you want to sit under a tree, you want to sit on a porch, it's all good. You do not have to bathe in the sun and bake in it and turn red and all of that. That is not necessary at all. It is just kind of getting the eyes to see the different bands of light. Can you get UVA and UVB exposure even if you're wearing contacts or sunglasses? So there's a little bit of controversy of that. I follow what Jack Kruse says, and he's the neurosurgeon, and he has a lot on his website. And the true circadian biologists kind of talk about how there's no way you're going to get as much through glasses or contacts. So I think you do the best you can. If you are able to do it without the contacts or the glasses, that's great. And if you need to wear them, you'll probably get some exposure, but it's not ideal. Like it's not the optimal ways that you can get it if you were able to remove the eyewear. Are there recommendations on infrared saunas? Yeah, I really like the one that I have. I researched it from in the mold world. Dr. Neil Nathan, who's the doctor I follow for my mycotoxin protocols, he uses relax sauna, and that's the one that I recommend because it's got the infrared capacity to it, but it heats up really quickly. One of the things I don't like about infrared saunas is that they take so long sometimes to heat up, which people don't have. So if you turn the sauna on, it's first of all it's portable. You can take it anywhere. It kind of fits into a little box. And it is you sit in it and it kind of opens up your heads out of it, but it heats up right away, so you can spend out of the 15 minutes that you're in it, it's hot for 14 of those minutes. So it's an excellent quick and dirty sauna. I love it. And they've got a great service department, so if you need anything they're great. But if anyone needs some information on that, you can send me an email. Any suggestions on how to improve restorative sleep when you're getting awakened through the night like a baby? So, sorry, that's a little bit hard. I think if you can dim the lights in the room, the problem when you have, a baby or any sort of, and we're so accustomed to this, there's so many lights. Any little light will wake up will send signals to our brain. So your night light or your bathroom light that's shining through, or the computer light that's on, or even my phone charger has a light. So there's all these little lights that are there. So if you can start dimming those lights, and you can even get what do you call it? The little lights, the night lights, they can be red. You can get infrared night lights. So that light at least is not as detrimental to our eyes. And so part of the problem when you have a baby is that we have lots of lights because the babies keep waking up. So maybe you can dim the lights in the room with red light bulbs. You still have light. You should be fine. You should be able to see. You can use red light bulbs for that. You can use sound therapy, white noise, different types of noises to kind of soothe the area. But I think the biggest thing would be to try to change the lighting in the room so that it's not as bright and you're not having all these little distractions. Ideally, when we sleep, it should be so dark you're not supposed to be able to see your hand. The lux should be 1. So if you do get a lux meter and you start checking your room at night, you'll be shocked. It'll be 10, 15 lux, which seems like nothing, but it's enough for our brain to know that it's not nighttime. So ideally, we want it to be really, really dark. And sometimes in some people, I will tell them to wear, blackout kind of a mask, so that when you do sleep, you're sleeping with the mask on. So say you did have to have all this light for children or pets or whatever reason, you can wear the mask. And so you're, at least when you do sleep, it's pitch dark for you. So maybe that would be okay. Does seeing the sunlight through a window or in a sunroom negate the effect? It's actually, all our windows have a lot of UV blocking, so it's actually not as effective at all. So I mean, it's nice to have sunlight coming through windows, but the benefits that we're talking about is directly in light versus like you can open the window and have the light directly go into your eyes. You don't have, like I said, please don't stare at the light. We don't want that to happen. It's just kind of looking with the windows open would be really helpful. But it doesn't give you anywhere near the effect of kind of standing outside.
I think that's the last questions that we had so far.
Okay, guys, thank you. It was so interactive. Appreciate it. And if there's any other questions, but this is something that I'm extremely passionate about in terms of all the things I've learned from it, specifically gearing towards what I'm passionate about, which is optimizing health, vitality, and supporting mitochondria and aging and reducing chronic illness. This is an excellent tool. You don't have to feel overwhelmed. You don't have to do it all tomorrow. Start baby steps, start with small things, maybe add a red bulb, maybe turn down the just dim your lights in the evening. Maybe get these glasses so you wear after sunset, and maybe get them for when you're on your computer, but they'll all add up. And the other thing is maybe when you first wake up in the morning, whatever time that is, go out and see the sun and just start with those baby steps and things will kind of go on its own. Well, thank you very much. I think that's it, right, Jake?
Yep. We're going to
Okay.
be, we'll send out an email to everyone after this with our contact information. So if you have any questions with
Okay.
the circadian rhythm or any of the services discussed, you'll be able to shoot us an email or give us a call, and we can follow up through there.
Okay. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Good night.